All right, let's take a look at Tanner's Harry Potter bedroom. There's some pictures of him with Harry Potter. There are all of his perler bead things that he made with Harry Potter. The Marauders map. Ooh, more of his little beads. There's his desk. You like this window right here? It is a bookcase. All right, here we are with lesson 2. This is in chapter 7, equations. We're moving on from solving equations mentally to finding out the trick to how to solve them not mentally. We're also going to be writing addition equations. So 2 parts to this, solving and writing, and all of it has to do with equations using addition. Let's look at the real world link. Miniature golf. On the second hole of miniature golf, it took Anne 3 putts to sink the golf ball. Her score is now 5. She represents this situation with cups and counters. So this must be what she got on the first hole. On the second hole, she got 3, and then she ended up with a score of 5. So let's write this in. Score on hole number 1. And we don't know what that is. That's like the X. And then this is a score of 3 on hole number 2. And here is her total score of 5. So whatever she got on hole 1 plus 3 from hole 2 gave her a total of 5. It says, number 1, fill in the boxes above using these phrases. Oh, okay. Her score on the first hole is unknown. Okay. Her score is now 5. And she scored a 3 on the second hole. Write the addition equation shown in the figure. So you have x plus 3 equals 5. X plus 3 equals 5. So how do we solve this equation? If we can get x alone, if we balance this out, we would have to take 3 from this side, take 3 away. And to make it balanced, we'd have to take 3 away from this side. So take away 3, take away 3. And that would leave us with x being 2. So let's say subtract 3 from each side. And what did that leave us with? This take away 3 is x, this take away 3 is 2. So this is how we write that out. It was x plus 3 equals 5. We subtracted 3 from this side. I like to split this down the middle. We subtracted 3 from this side, so you had to do the same thing to each side. And that left you with x equals 5 take away 3 is 2. So x equals 2. And that's what we're going to be doing in the first part, solving addition equations. So let's turn to page 526. Solve an equation by subtracting. So that's what we did on this side. We solved an addition equation by subtracting from each side, because subtraction is the inverse operation. So there's that vocab word. The inverse of addition is subtraction, and vice versa. And the subtraction property of equality, if you subtract 3 from one side of an equation, you have to subtract 3 from the other side of the equation. In lesson 1, you mentally solved equations. Another way is to use inverse operations which undo each other. For example, to solve an addition equation, use subtraction. So that's what we're going to do here. To solve an addition equation, use subtraction, because addition and subtraction are inverse operations. Jeez. There we go. Addition and subtraction are inverse operations. Let's take a look at example 1. Solve 8 equals x plus 3. Check your solution. Here it is using the models, the counters. Model the equation using counters for numbers and a cup for the variable. So we have 8 equals x, this is x, plus 3. And then it says remove 3 from each side. So we're going to take these away, we're going to take these away. There are 5 remaining. So 5 represents x. 5, 6, 7, 8 gives you 8 counters. You can check your math down here. Now here's how we use symbols. This is like what I did right here at the bottom to use the symbols. So 8 equals x plus 3. There's the equation. You subtract 3 from each side, and x equals 5. And again, here's how to check it. You just replace 5 for x. 5 plus 3 equals 8, and that works. So here we go. Let's subtract 2 from each side here to get c on its own. So I'm going to subtract 2. I like to draw this little line right here. Subtract 2. 5 take away 2 is 3. So c equals 3. All right, what are you going to do for this one? You need to subtract 5 from each side. So take away 5, take away 5. That gives you x on its own equals 6 take away 5 is 1. And here we have some decimals. So we need to get y on its own. We're going to have to take away 3.5 from each side to get y on its own. So take away, we have to line up the decimals. Line them up, up. I'm going to annex a 0. Line them up, up, up. 5 take away 0 is 5. 7 take away 5 is 2. Bring down the what? 12 take away 3 is 9. So does that make sense? 9, around 9 plus 3.5-ish is going to be a little bit over 12.5-ish. So yes, 9.25. So that is solving an equation with addition using subtraction, because subtraction is the inverse of addition. Now, let's take a look at this subtraction property of equality. If you subtract the same number from each side of an equation, the two sides remain equal. So that's why all of this over here has been working, because we've been following the subtraction property of equality. So right here, if you have 5 equals 5 and you take away 3 from each side, you end up with 2 equals 2, and it works. So then you just add in the variable, x plus 2 equals 3, take away 2 from each side, so x equals 1. It says when you solve an equation by subtracting the same number from each side of the equation, you are using the subtraction property of equality. So that is a key idea here. And what we're going to do now on this side is we are going to write equations. So over here we were solving an equation. Over here we're writing equations. So we have to remember this words, variable, down to the equation. And this diagram thing is, remember, you might want to draw a picture to represent what the words and the variable show us. And then the equation is easier to write. So it says, Ruben and Tarek have 245.5 downloaded minutes of music. If Ruben has 132 minutes, how many belong to Tarek? Write and solve an addition equation to find how many minutes belong to Tarek. So we have to make sure that we're writing an addition equation here. Oops, sorry. Ruben and Tarek have 245.5 minutes together. Now, we know Ruben has 132 minutes. So the variable, the one that we don't know, is Tarek. So Ruben had 132 minutes. Tarek is T, we don't know, that's our variable. And together, they add up to 245.5 minutes. So you have 132 minutes plus Tarek's minutes, and that's going to total 245.5 minutes. So we had to make sure we wrote an addition equation, because that's what the problem said to do. So now we can solve it. So you have 132 plus t equals 245 and a half. Subtract 132 from each side to get t on its own, and t equals 113 and a half. So 113 and a half minutes belong to Tarek. And you can check your answer. 132 plus 113 and a half equals 245 and a half. So it works. Now let's try that down here. Suppose Ruben had 147 and a half minutes of the 245 minutes that were downloaded. Write and solve an addition equation to find out how many minutes belong to Tarek. So we have the same situation up here, except 132 is now 147 and a half. So I'm going to write that out right here. We now have 147 and a half minutes. That's Ruben's plus Tarek's equals still the same 245 and a half. So we're going to subtract 147 and a half from both sides to get t on its own. 147 and a half. Drawing that down the middle, subtract 147. I'm making sure to line up the decimals. And I'm going to have this t now equals, let's see, 5 take away 5 is 0. Can't do 5 take away 7, so I have to borrow. 15 take away 7 is 8. All right, I cannot do 3 take away 14, so I'm going to borrow again. 13, 12, 11, 10, 9. 1 take away 1 is 0. So Tarek has 98 minutes. So they want us to write the equation. So the equation is 147.5 plus t equals 245 and a half. And the solving part is t equals 98 minutes. And that's how you do a write an equation and solve an equation problem for addition. Let's look at this example. Here's another one where we're going to look at the words, define a variable, picture it in your head, and write out the equation. A male gorilla weighs 379 pounds on average. This is 181 pounds more than the weight of the average female gorilla. Write and solve an addition equation to find the weight of an average female gorilla. So the words are telling us that you have 181 pounds plus the weight of an average female gets you 379 pounds. That's what the male gorilla weighs. This is 181 pounds more than the average female. So you have the average female is going to be W plus 181 pounds equals 379 pounds. So 181 plus W, the weight of a female, gives you 379. And with this equation, to solve it, you subtract 181 from each side, and 379 take away 181 gives you W is 198 pounds. And if you plug that 198 in up here to check it, 181 plus 198 is 379. So now you need to partner up for the guided practice, and we'll start practicing this stuff more on our own, but with a partner. All right, so on page 528, we are going to do 1, 2, 3, and 4. And make sure you have a partner. 1 and 2 are just like example 1. So we solve the equations just like we did over here. And we're going to try to use the symbol method. If you want to draw it out in pictures, you can. It's just like we did down here if you need to look back at an example. So go ahead and try number 1 and 2 and then check your answers with this video. So I'm going to be subtracting 7 from each side of this equation here. So take away 7 from each side. That leaves you with y equals 3. So the answer here is y equals 3. 7 plus 3 is 10, so that works. So what do you have to do to each side here? To get e alone, we have to subtract 6 from each side. All right, so that gives us E equals 4. Now, does that make sense? 6 plus 4 is 10. So yes, E equals 4 works for that one. All right, number 3. This is just like example 2. So let's look back at example 2. Oh yeah, with Ruben and Tarek, you think about the words, you define a variable, you can draw it out and write the equation, and then you have to solve the equation. So it's just like this one too. A board that measures 19.5 meters in length is cut into 2 pieces. One piece measures 7.2 meters. Write and solve an equation to find the length of the other piece. So we're trying to find the length of the other piece. So that's going to be, let's call that L is the length of the other piece. So let's draw out what we're doing. We have one piece measuring 7.2 meters and another piece that's L, we don't know, and that totals to 19.5 meters. So our equation should be 7.2 plus L equals 19.5. That's our equation. And now we have to solve the equation. So I'm going to write it out right here again to solve it. 7.2 plus L equals 19.5. To get L on its own, I'll subtract 7.2 from each side, lining up my decimals, and L equals 5 take away 2 is 3. Bring down the decimal. 19 take away 7. 9 take away 7 is 2, 1. So the length is 12.3 meters. And if you think 12 plus 7, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 18, 19, there it is. 12 plus 7 is 19, but it was 0.2 plus 0.3 is 0.5. So checking it, it all works. So there's the equation that you write out, and there's how you solve it. It takes 43 facial muscles to frown. Now this is like example 3, by the way, which is this one up here. Same type of thing we just did. We have to write an addition equation. It takes 43 facial muscles to frown. This is 26 more muscles than it takes to smile. Write and solve an equation to find the number of muscles it takes to smile. Okay, so let's think about what the words say. 43 muscles to frown. This is 26 more than to smile. So the muscles it takes to smile is the variable that we're looking for. Should we call that? I'm going to call that X. So the muscles it takes to smile plus 26 equals the muscles it takes to frown, which is 43. All right, if you want to draw that out, it would look like this. It takes 43 muscles to frown, and that's 26 more than the muscles it takes to smile. That's X. So X plus 26 equals 43. There's our equation. Now let's solve it. We need to subtract 26 to get X on its own. So X equals... Can't do 3 take away 6, you have to borrow. 13 take away 6, 12, 11, 10, 9, 8, 7. 3 take away 2 is 1. So X equals 17. It takes 17 muscles to smile and 43 muscles to frown. I wonder if that's true. There's our equation. There's how we solved it. So we're going to do the same type of stuff on the independent practice now. All right, so the independent practice, you want to do this more on your own. On your own. You can still be by your partner if you need someone to check in with. We're going to do 1, 2, and 3, 4, and 5. Now let's take a look. 1, 2, and 3. It's just like example 1, where you solve the equation and check your solution. So it's just like 1 and 2 right here. or example 1 over here with all of these. So if you get stuck, look back and see what to do there. This is like example 2 and this is like example 3. So it's just like this one with the cutting the boards in half and this one with the muscles to smile and frown. So you're going to have to look back here if you need help. Think about what the words say, what's the variable, draw it out as needed, and write the equation and solve it. So just like we did here. We set it up, wrote the equation and solved it. Make sure you're writing addition equations. It's always going to want an addition equation. All right, try it out. This is kind of like your little quiz. All right, now I don't know if you've noticed this, but these 3 are really easy to solve mentally. We're just writing it out like this because you're not always going to have numbers that are easy to solve mentally, and you need to know that with addition, you solve the equation by using the inverse operation subtraction to get the variable on its own. So if you subtract 3 from each side, c equals 3, and to check that, 3 plus 3 equals 6, so that works. 3 plus 3 equals 6. Here, we need to get x alone, so we subtract 2 from each side. So x would be 7, and then if you check that, 2 plus 7 does equal 9. For number 3, we subtract 7 from each side to get a on its own, and a equals 2 if you do 9 take away 7, and then if you check that, 7 plus 2 equals 9. For number 4, we have to write an addition equation and we have to solve it. So I drew this out here. Zach has $489.50. Paz, we don't know how much money he has, but when you add those two together, it gets $756.80. So the equation is 489.5 plus P, or whatever your variable is that you used, equals 756.80. Then I solved that by subtracting 489.50 from each side. So Paz's money is $267.30. So that's the answer when you solve it. Then you have that king cobra snake. The king cobra is 118 inches, which is 22 inches longer than the black mamba. The black mamba is what we don't know, so I use the variable m. So m plus 22 inches equals 118 inches. That's your equation. M plus 22 equals 118. And when you subtract 22 from each side, the black mamba snake is about 96 inches long. So that's the answer when you solve the equation. All right, now your last step here is the reflection. So let's take a look at that. Here's the reflection for Chapter 7, Lesson 2. I can solve and write addition equations. Number 1, the inverse operation of addition is blank. Number 2, use inverse operations to solve the equations. Show your work, even though that one's easy to do mentally. I still want you to show your work. And make sure you're using inverse operations. Number 3, read the problem below and do A through C. So you're going to have to define a variable, write an addition equation to find the number of meters Len swam, and then solve the equation using inverse operations. Show your work below and say how many meters Len swam. So Julie and Len went swimming. Julie swam 570 meters. This is 153 more meters than Len swam. So how far did Len swim? By the way, if you want to draw that out over here, that might be a good idea.